Should be the last video in this lesson. We're going to combine a drop shadow with motion effects. So a drop shadow creates perspective by adding a small shadow behind an object. This is often used to help create a sense of separation between foreground and background elements. So we're going to try adding a drop shadow. So open the sequence 06 Enhance. Make sure the program monitor zoom level is set to fit. You can see that mine is. In the effects panel, browse into Video Effects Perspective. Video Effects Perspective. Drag the drop shadow effect onto the journey to the New York title clip of the V3 track. So it's talking about right here. So we're going to drag, the drop shadow. So click that, and we're going to drag that to this clip right here. Experiment with the drop shadow settings in the Effect Controls panel. You may need to scroll down to see them. When you have finished experimenting, right here, you see them. After you've done doing your experimenting, let's all do the same thing. We're going to darken the shadow by changing the opacity to 85%. Drag the direction value to about 320. Or you can just type it like I'm going to do. Set the distance to 15 so the effect is further offset. Set the softness to 25. That will soften the edges of the shadow. Generally, the greater the distance setting, the more softness you could apply. So let's play this sequence to see our results. Wow. See that shadow? See it? See it? Okay. An alternative to the motion effects setting is the transform effect, available in the effects panel, Video Effects Distort category. These two effects offer similar controls, but the transform effect offers three key differences. It would change clip's anchor point, position, scale, and opacity settings. Unlike in the motion settings, this means effects such as drop shadows and bevels can behave differently, usually more correctly. There are additional skew axis, and shuttle angle settings to allow visual angular transformation. And the transform effect can automatically simulate motion blur for more natural looking movement. So we're going to compare those. We're going to open sequence 07, motion and transform. Scrub through the sequence to familiarize yourself. You see that guy's flipping. He is flipping out. Okay. There are two sections in the sequence. Each has a picture-in-picture, rotating twice over a background clip while moving from left to right. Look carefully at the position of the shadow on each pair of clips. In the first example, the shadow follows the bottom edge of the picture-in-picture and it appears on all four sides of the clip as it rotates, which obviously isn't realistic because the light source producing the shadow wouldn't be moving. In the second example, the shadow stays on the lower right of the picture-in-picture, which is more realistic. So let's look at that. See the shadow effect around the edge of it? That's what it's talking about. Okay. So click the first clip on the V2 track. That is that one. And view the effects applied in the effects control panel, the motion effect and the drop shadow effect. So it's talking about up here and down here. Now click the second clip on the V2 track. The transform effect is producing the motion this time. You see right here it's transform. This one was drop shadow. This one is transform. The transform effect has many of the same options as the motion effect with the addition of skew axis, and shutter angle. That's all these things. As you can see, the drop shadow effect works more realistically when combined with the transform effect than when it's used with the motion effect alone because of the order in which the effects are applied. The motion effect is always applied after other effects. So another option for creating movement is the basic 3D effect, which can manipulate a clip in 3D space. It allows you to rotate the image around horizontal and vertical axes, as well as move it toward or away from you. You'll also find an option to enable a specular highlight, which creates the appearance of light reflecting off the rotating surface. Let's explore that effect. So I'll open up lesson 0, or open up the sequence 08 basic 3D. Drag the playhead over the sequence to view the contents. There you go. The light that follows the motion comes from above, from behind, and from the left of the viewer. Because the light comes from above, you won't see the effect until the image is tilted backwards to catch the reflection. Specular highlights of this kind can be used to enhance the realism of a 3D effect. 4 major properties of the basic 3D effect. Swivel. This controls the rotation around the vertical y-axis. Tilt. This controls the rotation around the horizontal x-axis. Distance to image. This moves the image along the z-axis to simulate depth. And specular highlight. This adds a glint of light that reflects off the surface of the rotated image as though an overhead light were shining on the surface. Experiment with the basic 3D options. Note that the Draw Preview Wireframe option applies only when working in software only mode. With this option enabled, Premiere Pro displays only an outline of the clip frame. This is a quick way to set up effect without your computer rendering the image. If you're working with GPU acceleration enabled, the full image will always be shown. So just click on it and just come up here and just mess around with it however you see fit. After you've done doing that, call me over to your desk. I want to see your basic 3D and see what you've done to it. Then I want to see that you have the motion and transform. I want to see you have the enhance, the auto reframe, one by one that we did, the auto reframe, the scale, the montage, the motion, and the floating. I want to see all of those 8 or 9 or however many things that is, and then I'll have you submit something from there. Okay, this completes lesson 8 or 9.